Your other meetings sounded interesting. Not as interesting as it sounded. Yeah. I meet with administration about probably introduction. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, council, for being here for round two of our meetings today. I'd like to call this committee of the whole meeting for Tuesday, April 22nd. Order, beginning by acknowledging gratitude. We live and work on additional unceded territory, the Squamish. As people live as stewards of these lands and waters surrounding Bowen Island. First item on our agenda here is approval of the agenda. I'll look to our corporate officer for the introduction of any late items today.
No late items.
No late items. In fact, I have a motion to approve the agenda for the April 22nd committee of the whole, moved by Councillor Jurgensen, seconded by Councillor Getty. Any discussion, changes, amendments to the agenda? Seeing any, I will call the question. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. Moving on to section 3, staff reports. 3.1, we have the presentation of our quarterly report, January to March 2025. I will turn it over to Karen Dillon, our Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to be doing quarterly reporting at the Bowen Island municipality. The quarterly report is meant to highlight all the activities that were done over each quarter of the year. So this will cover the first 3 months of 2025. So that'd be January, February, March. We'll share a screen shortly of the quarterly report, and each department lead will speak briefly, highlight 2 or 3 sentences, and then open it up to any questions that councillors may have. So this is an opportunity for not only council, but the community as a whole to get some sense of what's happening in terms of what the organization is doing on behalf of the residents. So with that,
It's all good.
and as we go through each section, if the responsible department lead could come to the chair.
So the first section is corporate services, so I'm happy to stay here. For the administration team, I don't know if there's anything you want me to do with finance. I'll do for. Yeah, you could probably speak too. Okay, that's great. So corporate services combined with the administration team and the finance team. So the biggest, I believe, accomplishment of the administration team in our first quarter was the successful move from the old municipal to the new community center. We have a ton of stats on that, but it essentially meant 75% of the department dropped everything for 2 weeks and did only the big tasks. So yeah, really proud of that. That went off pretty much without a hitch. And, yeah, and here we are. One of the best accomplishments for the finance team, I believe, is really thinking ahead in terms of the budget process and the ability to print our tax notices in-house. We have sent it off in previous years, but this year, in order to mitigate some of the impact from the postal strike that we anticipate will happen at the mid-May, we have implemented measures so that we can do all the printing and stuffing and mailing out of all our tax notices in-house, which means we can do it pretty much immediately after the bylaws are passed. So that was a great accomplishment. As well as finance is really working on digitizing their financial records. A couple other things in administration was the recreation website was combined into Bowen Island Municipality.ca. So that's it's a little bit easier for people to find recreation programs, as well as the community center. So our website is all integrated in Bowen Island Municipality.ca. And in alignment with council's strategic plan, administration staff worked on restructuring the committee governance structure. That is actually ongoing work, but a large portion of it was completed in the first quarter here. That's it for us. Infrastructure roads.
So were there any questions from services and finance? There's none, then we'll move on to the next section.
When you mentioned the stats, what were some of the stats that you're taking in on the move?
The stats for the move, we counted the total number of like desks and chairs, boxes moved. Like we didn't do the physical moving, we had movers to do that, but it did need a lot of like, instruction. So our stats is just, I think it was 800 boxes. Yeah, and about 30 workstations total. I think it was 100 chairs. For some reason, we were really impressed by that. 100 chairs, 100 chairs.
This is asset management.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, not seeing any further questions, we'll move on.
Okay, so I'll do infrastructure services today, which includes public works and engineering. During the last quarter, we saw continued work on the multi-use pathway, which the last section, and forgive me for not being able to say where it started and where it ended, but the last section, we did substantial completion inspection on it last week. It passed, so that section is open. In addition to that, there's been ongoing work in King Edward Bay and Bowen Bay with the water services project there with NB Contracting doing the work. And just ongoing ditching, road grading, and the usual winter maintenance that happened. We did have some snowfall events during the last quarter, and our public works teams responded to those well, I thought. So yeah, a lot going on in infrastructure, and I can answer any questions that you might have, or I might come back later with information if I can't answer. I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Councilor Morse.
The little circle at the bottom left is talking about permit applications. So those are things like for driveway access or something, or?
Yeah, I would assume they would be for like driveway accesses or anything, whereas a permit might be a road use permit. We can get some more details on what the mixes of those and the service requests would be. Phone calls from the public for particular issues that they're having concerns with. So those would be drainage related or potholes or things of that nature. I think the intent is at some point we'll move to using our software to better track these service requests. What's being done now is kind of we're keeping track of them as they come in. Our staff are just logging them, but that's what this would be about.
Thank you.
Not seeing any further questions. Moving on to utilities.
Again, I will provide a overview of this. So a lot of the utilities work was done with the Blue Water Park main upgrades. It's the NB project that was NB contract project previously discussed, and there was there's an issue with a water main that goes in the Carter Road Bridge area that needs to be addressed. So we're right now staff are working on a cost estimate and solution to address this section of water main that is being exposed, I believe. through just age. So there's that. There continues to be the work on the Kobe water system. Last quarter, we did change out some of the ceramic ultrafiltration modules. And they worked for a few days and then they went down. So we're trying to resolve that issue with Purifix. They should be coming out again this week to address more of those ceramic filtration modules. Right now, we're running on one module and we're achieving all our targets for turbidity and for our log removal of pathogens. So the water that is being produced by the plant is of high quality. It's just that we need to get the other module up and running to be able to produce the capacity that was initially was designed for. And so we're working with Purifix to address.
Oh, then the hands go up. Starting with Councillor Jurgensen, followed by Councillor Fast.
When you say that operating on one module, but yet hitting the targets with the one module, what does that mean in practical terms for the existing users? Is all the water that's currently coming out of a tap in the code based system being treated? Is 50% of it being treated? Just trying to put it in a term that can be understood by the public.
Yes, so if I was to describe this picture, a water, like the flow of the water comes in and it branches off into two parallel treatment modules. And so when one's malfunctioning, what they'll do is they'll shut off the one treatment side, so module B, and it will all run through module A. So all the water is being treated to the standard that's required because module A is working properly. The only downside of that is you don't get the total flow you need because you're only running it through one module instead of two. Does that explain it?
It does, but are we doing anything to make up that difference in flow or just having to wait until the module is the other module's off?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So it won't achieve full flow capacity until both modules are up and running. So really there's no other option. There's an upset limit on the amount of flow that you can put through just one module. So until the other one's repaired, we won't be up to full capacity.
Thank you.
Councillor Fast, followed by Councillor Morse, maybe Councillor Wade, is that? And maybe Councillor Wade. Okay, Councillor Fast.
My hand is up for the Carter Road Bridge. I'm just wondering when the repair planning is conducted. Just making sure that the salmon hatchery downstream is kept into the planning thoughts, because quite a while ago, 10 years ago or so, there was a water main break when a tree came down on the water main further upstream, and all the fish in the hatchery died because of the chlorinated water. So just bringing this to your attention. So, thank you.
We'll factor that into any future works.
Councillor Morse.
it's more on the quantity of water. The module fills the storage tank. So is there any issue with storage tank not filling fast enough to supply the water to the residents and then not leave enough for fire flow?
Well, at the current time, there's no issue with supplying the capacity we need. It's would be an issue down the road if we're to add more users. It does discharge your reservoir. So to put the difference, so with just one module up and running, we produce about 500 liters per minute flow rate. If we have two, it goes up to 800 liters per minute. And you think it would be half of the other, but it's, I mean, you don't generally want to, we're kind of running it just through the one. It's a little bit over what we would normally want to run it at. So having the extra module should give us another 300.
And when people, if it's not fixed by the summer, when people start using water for garden sprinkling and things like that. Is there, I guess I'm just worried about the capacity in the reservoir being drawn down too fast for the replenish.
I think that's something we'll have to come back to. Ron?
hopefully it'll be fixed before we get into that situation.
Okay, so with respect to the Cold Bay water treatment, they brought in some sort of an external testing module or something that we didn't have to do a factory read. And that was working?
Okay, so I mean, I don't know if today we're gonna go through all the technical, like this is highly, technical detailed stuff, but basically, if you want to picture one ceramic ultrafiltration module, it has 38 tubes, individual tubes. And so what they were able to do is they were able to manufacture a device that would look at each individual tube and see if it was fractured. So if it wasn't holding its pressure, that's indication that it's fractured. So they were able to troubleshoot a few of those, determine that they were not working properly and replace them. But subsequent to that, there was still appears to be ongoing issues with module B. So perhaps some of the other ones are also defective and they need to test those and replace those as well.
So the last time, we waited 6 weeks for replacement modules and this external testing module, whatever it's called, to get out here. So we're now at the point where we don't have this other module B working because some of the filters may or may not be malfunctioning. Did we keep the unit in terms of doing the external testing? Or
Well,
did it come and go with the people from?
The technicians from Purifics are the ones to do the test. So even if us having help us.
Okay, so then, the last time there was a 6-week delay in terms of getting somebody out here to do the testing. Is there another long delay like that? Because it has the downstream, if I can use that metaphor, effect on Eagle Cliff and Grafton.
Well, I mean, they're a London, Ontario-based company, so there is always at least at minimum going to be a 1 or 2 week delay between them being able to come out here. That's been an ongoing challenge with Purifics. That's nothing new, and that's kind of the case with them. So,
Do we have a timeline?
well, we're supposed to be here this week, so I haven't had an update since a long weekend, but
Great.
So that's encouraging. We'll see them again this week. It sounds like they're coming out, but if I'm reading the top line headline correctly, it's that the existing module is working. It's meeting the turbidity requirements. It's meeting the pathogen reduction requirements, and that the entire Cove Bay system is now on that water.
yeah, it's
That's the one
receiving
that's-
high quality water.
Okay.
That's of the information I had last week when I was on site.
Does that give us, North Shore Health approval?
Well, we have to reach out to Vancouver Coastal Health, get it through the chair, to see if us having this system produce high quality water for a period of 2 weeks, whatever it's been, is going to satisfy their requirements.
That is probably the most encouraging update on the system so far.
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously
Purifics, I mean, this has been a 4-year saga with them, and there's some indication that the president of the company was going to visit Bowen Island. I'll believe it when I see it, but apparently there's a big conference on water and wastewater in Victoria, and he's going to be coming up for that. So since he's in the neighborhood anyways, I think he plans to visit our site. It's be good to have him on site.
Right up. Okay, moving on, public safety services. Right.
Few of the highlights in the first quarter for public safety. I would say we conducted 706 hours of training for our volunteers. as well as that includes putting 17 of our members through electric vehicle safety training, so first electric vehicle training that we've done in the department. We also applied for and received $300,000 worth of Fire Smart grants over the next 2 years. And also we commissioned our solar panel system on the fire hall, which will actually that will supply all the electricity for the fire hall going forward. So yeah, those are some of our main highlights. Question.
Council, for any questions, Council Faust?
Thank you, and I was really glad to see the training numbers, that stats starting to come out regularly will help everybody stay more informed. And appreciate all the volunteer hours and things like that too. It's great. And I'm glad to see the mention of the CO2 levels saved because you're using the solar panels instead of the hydro. So that's terrific. Thank you. You've got heat pumps in there too, is that right?
Not yet. We're hoping in the future.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you.
Council Faust?
With the solar panels, have you got batteries so it'll run if there's no power at all?
No, all of the power generated returns to the grid and they credit us for that.
So what happens if we have a big power outage and there's a huge snowy weather and they don't charge?
So we have our backup generator that does power the entire building if required during a power outage.
Council Wade?
I'm just curious what electric vehicle safety training is.
So that the training that they provided to us is in regards to either a fire or just a crash. We have to deal with disabling electric vehicles that basically during a fire or some kind of crashes. So there's a lot of differences between that and just a regular internal combustion engine vehicle.
I think it would be safer somehow.
It's not.
Sometimes yes, and sometimes no.
I think it's great that we got the Fire Smart grant again. I'm just curious if you might be able to, since we're not in a public setting, I know there's big benefits to residents as well as the safety of the island. You know, maybe if you might be able to describe that program a little bit and the benefits that it has to people.
Yeah, so it's the program is, I guess, mainly focused at getting the information out to the residents on how to make their own properties, as well as our municipal properties and any other industrial or commercial properties on the island up to sort of Fire Smart standard where where the properties are just safer. So basically cleaning up loose brush, things like that. Teaching principles of how to keep, you don't want to store your firewood under your deck, under your house. That's not safe. You want to keep that in a space maybe a little bit further from your home. There's quite a bit to the program, and we now have a Fire Smart coordinator that's going to be teaching those and dealing with all that stuff to the community. So once they're set up and running, they just started last week. So it'll be a good thing to get out to the community.
Right on. Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic program, and just based on what we've seen in the province with wildfires over the last few years, it's something that I definitely promote as often as I can to community members and keeping our island fire smart, especially during the peak seasons. So we did good key. Yeah. So thank you for your work on that. Any other questions for the chief? Councilor Giddey.
If somebody wants to participate in the Fire Smart program, they get in touch with you.
You can actually go on the website and sign up on our municipal website and sign up for a Fire Smart inspection of their property. And as well as they're going to, once again, we're up and running here shortly, there'll be lots of notices and things going out about different Fire Smart events we're going to have during the upcoming season.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, we've got recreation.
Council. I think this building represents a very large chunk of big highlights in the recreation department. So getting moved into this facility for our department was not just moving offices, but also moving equipment from multiple storage sites, moving a weight room, setting up lots of new rooms for programming and working. So that was a big part of recreation, but also it's a major operational shift moving into this because the former recreation office was not one that people visited in a casual nature. They went to use the weight room and that's about it. So it's a shift in how things will be done in the departments, and that's part of what we're doing out here. With a lot of new instructors that were recruited this quarter as well, so that we could launch into this quarter now, second quarter, with a lot of new programs in the facility. So 23 new programs starting this week in the new facility. So, and through all of that, a lot of work figuring out what the weight room or the fitness center will look like, a lot of speaking with community. We reached out and got a lot of different bids of different equipment. So we had to do a lot of research on the equipment and where to get the parts from. Are they Canadian sourced, US sourced, which, you know, the timeline on parts and for maintenance and of the warranties were. So I think tomorrow is the day that the equipment comes. So that's an exciting piece. So as we were doing all of that, we also ran all of the programs that we could. So, you know, events for community like Family Day, barbecue on the beach was a really fun new idea that was well received. All of the sports in the school gym took place, and we ran all our spring break programs for youth, as well as selling all the summer camp programs that takes place in the first quarter as well. Construction is not finished, but we're getting close. We're getting very close.
Any questions from manager recreation? I think just maybe, on behalf of council and thank you and appreciation for all the work that's been done, both for the move, but then also, when I look at things here, like the Family Day Beach Barbecue, knowing that the recreation department, between the closure of previous facilities and the opening of this one, was operating in liminal space of like, needing to go into the community and find places and keep instructors engaged and keep programs running on the island. So I think that was a big lift and took a lot of work and then got us into the site. And so thank you very much for the work that both you and the entire department did.
Thank you. Creative team.
Creative team. Yes, very good. Yeah. I've noticed that it's also the most creative office that we have.
Absolutely, it's quite representative of.
Now the recreations come under the fold of the rest of the valley.
Yeah.
Parks and Environments.
So we're excited to be able to focus a little bit more on climate action in the coming months. With the $15,000 we were awarded from the fixed funding, we have hired an intern who starts next week. So that project to update the climate action strategy will be taking place for the next 4 months or so. We look for opportunities to engage with us on that. And then we're also excited to be part of this climate collaborative that's a regional project run by ICLEI. And ICLEI doesn't stand for anything in particular, or everyone has forgotten what that stands for. It's local governments for sustainability at this point. But I think that they'll be really good for building capacity to actually implement some of these key climate initiatives that we share in common. They might have to do with sea level rise or with severe winter weather, which is an obvious kind of adaptation initiative that we might want to implement. But right now it's early days, and we're looking at all sorts of different adaptation initiatives that we might share in common across the region. So, well, I was there. Did anyone have any questions?
And speaking to that piece across the region, Metro Vancouver's done a lot of work with their Climate 2050 plan and then the underlying roadmaps to support that. And I'm curious if there's, if this update to our climate action strategy is going to plug into some of that work, or even copy it or see how it can be implemented. Like, I know it's broad and it's vast, the stuff that Metro Vancouver is doing, and it's also got the regional district flavor to it, but I'm just wondering where we fit into that as a member municipality.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the question. I think I have the same question as well. And so that's a large part of what the intern is going to be doing, is looking at all the different regional strategies and look for opportunities on how we can collaborate with them and how we can align well with those plans. The Squamish Nation has also recently finished their climate action strategy, and so that's another one where they've already asked us to do some collaboration in that area, and so we're really excited about being more involved with them on that. So that's, yeah, task number one, review all the regional plans.
That's great, and I love this for us. I think it's been difficult to find the time and the funding to do some of that strategic work, so see that you're lit up about it.
Yeah.
And excited about it, so from this seat, I'm excited too, so thank you for that. This planning and development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So some of our highlights from the first quarter of the year. So first of all, the adoption of the Snug Cove Design Guidelines. That's a project we worked on for a long time. We're quite happy to have complete to protect and enhance the arts and crafts character of Bowen Island and Snug Cove. Ongoing work is the work of the OCP steering committee. So we've been meeting with them through this quarter, working on that first phase of engagement, which we're looking to launch in May. So we're quite excited about some of the events we'll be unveiling on that shortly. One major focus, along with every other department, has been the move. And we undertook work to digitize all of our property records and building permit plans. So we estimate there are 500 building permit plans. We have 20 years of plans that got shipped off to be digitized. We're excited, we no longer have to store it. And if people want to find plans of their buildings that we have on record, it will be much easier for us to produce them for people. And then the final thing we've listed there is expanding our grant for the Housing Accelerator Fund. So we successfully received top-up funding from CMHC and the federal government. And that money is for a project to look at inflow and infiltration in the Snug Cove sewer system with potential to increase the capacity in that system. And then finally, we managed to hire a new planner. We're quite excited. He started April 1st. So bringing our department back up to
no small feat, some of those tasks. But I've got any questions for the planning.
In digitizing documents, these property files, will people need to go through the planning department to find them, or are they going to be online?
They will still be, so we, yes, so for somebody to access them, we require from the property owner for the other agencies to go.
Right. Good, okay, thank you.
Any further questions? If there's letters you would like me to write to our other municipalities for poaching our staff, I would be happy to do that. As I know it's a trend, but this is great work. And I think just the question that I have and might be worthwhile putting it into the public sphere is just detailing a little bit about what's going to come out of the OCP steering committee, particularly in relation to the engagement process that I know is going to be launching next month through the summer.
Sure, so we are, yes, we're meeting with the OCP steering committee on the 28th, I think it's next Monday, for about the engagement. We had a meeting last week to go over communication engagement plan. So we're looking at from about, I think it's May 8th until June 8th, I believe is the timing to do that first round of engagement. So we're looking at that opening weekend, so May 10th. The consultants, McElhaney, will be here at the farmers market and then a session by the library, doing essentially pop-up engagement. And at the same time, we're running a survey island-wide, and it's looking at the theme of it's supposed to be sort of big, broad engagement. So we have a draft survey at this point, and the consultants will look at the other material, but it's sort of trying to ask people, what are your vision? What's working in the current OCP? What still matches the vision for Bowen? What's your vision for Bowen in the next 20 years? So not the detailed policy stuff, but sort of trying to get direction from the Bowen community on what do you want Bowen to be for 20 years? Yeah, and then, as I said, we're meeting with the steering committee on the 28th, hoping to firm up then the other additional engagement, where how do we go to meet people where they are? So look at sessions on the ferry or walking the ferry line or having a table outside the ready outside or any of those sort of events that are happening. We want to have a presence there where people can hear that an OCP review is happening is kind of almost first goal of it is being aware of it, and then second is to gain feedback at this initial stage.
Okay. What's the next formal connection point with the OCP and council? I know that the committee's been, you know, I'm on that email list, they've had lots of conversation and lots of work from that committee so far. I'm curious when, you know, just for our council in the room here, when do we see the next major point of contact with OCP?
Sure, that's a great question. So after this first round of engagement, the consultants will produce a what we heard report. So producing, you know, this is what we've heard from that first round of engagement, and we will be bringing that to council. Say essentially, this is the direction, this is, you know, who we've heard from, this is what we've heard. This is where that sort of the direction of the process is taking us. And we'd be bringing that to council to sort of weigh in and let you know where the process is heading.
Wonderful, Councilor Getty.
So is this the members of the committee and the consultants, or is it involving council? How do we beat the bushes to get more people out and get more information from them? They should do. There's basically a survey. How do we get a number of people that get maximize the numbers involved?
Yeah, I think once we are launched, you know, please do invite everyone to attend or to complete the survey. If you can think of events that are happening in May or other ways that we can do outreach, we are, you know, looking for suggestions into the plan. All the committee members, when we met last week, you know, we're quite excited about it and eager to volunteer, and so we're trying to put together a schedule of saying, you know, who wants to volunteer to this, stay and have it well organized.
Not seeing any further questions, thank you so much. Next up, we have bylaw services.
Of the department. Thank you. So we've been very busy with staffing over the last quarter. We've hired 2 part-time bylaw staff. One is focused on the administrative side of the work, and the other is focused on the actual patrolling and monitoring of the code. We have not yet started our weekend bylaw patrol coverage, so you can expect to see the bylaw officer around sometime starting in May. They've been very busy over the last 3 months. Both of them have gotten up to speed and gotten their flagging tickets, so they will be qualified to step into that ferry marshalling position if required. I will report that we have not yet had any applications for that role. That's a bit of a disappointment. We'll try and publish that and then increase the visibility of that job posting. Hopefully that we will be able to receive some interest in that position for the summer. Over 100 requests for service in the first quarter of 2025. So that is, of course, dog complaints, it's noise complaints. There's significant amount of complaints regarding Mannion Bay and Wharfinger issues at the moment that the staff are working on. I think that's it. We're hopeful that we will get some interest in the ferry marshalling position going forward. Questions?
Councilor Jorgensen.
You mentioned there's a lot of Mannion Bay and Wharfinger complaints. What are the general categories of those complaints?
One was an abandoned vessel left. It's actually a vessel that was in distress that the Coast Guard towed there, left it there, and working with the owner to try and get them to come up. In the meantime, it's been moved from the mooring buoy to the dock because the mooring buoy was a registered owner and they required use of it, so we had to get it out of there. But now we've got a problem on our dock. We need to get those boats removed, especially before the busy summer season starts.
Thank you.
Not seeing any further questions. Thank you. On to human resources.
Well, I'm glad for the previous departments to be stealing my thunder a bit by celebrating their new hires this last quarter. So as was mentioned, we have brand new custodial team, so new to Bowen. We both hired and onboarded them, and Vincent, our facilities manager, is training them. As Kristen mentioned, we have our new bylaw services team. And a new planner. We actually poached from Lillooet, district of Lillooet, and just a little bit of, quick promo. And in addition to our staffing efforts, I have we organized a senior leadership retreat, which was very successful and very, very helpful for all of us. And we have some ongoing ways to enforce that and to use that to our advantage. HR was involved with supporting some of the transitions. A lot of change was happening during the move process and getting settled into our new spaces, ergonomic assessments, all those kinds of things. This colossal effort by all staff led to the development of a shout out board because there was so much unrecognized, unseen work happening. And as I mentioned before, our team is unique in that we really rally together. People often step outside their job descriptions to support each other, to support other departments, and just to help, ensure that this colossal entity keeps going and is really enthusiastic about it and very supportive of each other. So this was actually an initiative that came out of Sophie's team, and Sophie really helped spearhead this as a shout out board where we kind of public, or at least within an organization, recognize those efforts, and we want to actually continue that. So that emerged from the move. And this is something that we want to continue going forward. Yeah, that's what we update. We have quite a few positions that we're posting for summer temporary positions. And of course, we now have another one, management of infrastructure, which as of this first quarter had been posted, but it's not there.
Questions for our HR coordinator?
Where's the shout out board and can we add to it?
Oh, I don't know. Right now it's in Miro, which is this online system, but we want to actually make it out of actual sticky notes. And this has been a conversation. If we have it in the kitchen, because that's where folks are going through, but that's a public space. So there's sort of, I have to kind of suss this out a little bit more if we want it to be in a public space or somewhere that's just in the municipal office area. Because it would be nice for the public to see sort of all this additional and all of the work that happens and the how well appreciate staff are for each other. But I would be loved. We'll make it known wherever it gets posted.
I'm curious just from the perspective of being able to onboard some of these ferry marshals. It sounds like there's not a lot of uptake in our postings so far. Are you able to speak a little bit more about how the plans to bolster the recruiting efforts and given that we're starting to edge closer to May, what some of the things that we can do to actually find folks to fill that position might be?
Yeah, I think that we can, I know our communications coordinator is already on this as well, but we have considered, because we actually do have a lot of custodian applications right now, if there's a possibility that, because these are part-time positions, that maybe some of them might be interested in also taking on a ferry marshal role. The challenge is these are very different personality types, so we're looking at if that might work. We do have the traffic controlling certification that recently happened in bylaw, so if folks can step in as needed. But yeah, this is a bit surprising that we don't have any applications yet. There's been an issue with my email address, actually quite a few BIM email addresses, both HR and my own, as well as Aaron and Lee's, and not receiving some emails like from Gmail or Hotmail and Yahoo, and not sending them either. And so this has been escalated from Sea to Sky, our tech support, through to Microsoft. I think it's a Microsoft issue, so I'm hoping that's not one. But yeah, we will need to be bolstering that now, especially when it's getting quite tight.
Okay.
I assume they'll have to have this traffic marshal training. So is that a hurdle that you're asking people to already have had that?
No, we'll train them. We'll train them, yeah. That's
Is there any talk of council needing to entertain the ask of increasing the compensation for those positions?
We have increased it enough, like it's just over $30 an hour starting, which is actually more than our custodian rate, and we are receiving more applications to custodian than ferry marshal. So I think we need to make some compelling posts and amping up the opportunity.
by, being a member of our community, and we know those challenges, so how to alleviate those challenges, that is stepping up into those roles.
Okay,
The other thought, I guess, is there are external contracting firms that
Yes.
do the traffic marshal.
Yes, we do have both tables, yeah, because that was part of the request.
and that might be a management discussion is, what's the decision point for, are they trying to do it in-house versus contracting out? Knowing that it'll be more expensive. I think it's something the community will need to see in place for at least a May long weekend, if I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm reading the room right, yeah. Okay. That's great, thank you for those updates. I'm encouraged by the folks we are getting and the interest that we have for the community center and for our positions, so that's great, thank you. What was that, Hannah? No,
I just wanted to take a brief moment to acknowledge the work that went into this document. Specifically, Sarah and Sophie kind of worked together to come up with this quarterly report format. I felt coming in as a CEO, we needed a tool to report out to our community better, and I'm really humbled by the uptake and support I got from all the department leads and staff in putting this forward for the community, and it's our first one. I didn't know how it would go, but it went well in my mind, and if there's any other feedback to improve it as we move forward, I'd be more than willing to take that under advisement, but I just want to acknowledge the work that everybody on staff did to put this together, in addition to the normally quite busy workflow. That's fast.
Thanks. I wanted to bring this up at some point too. I really appreciate this update and this style. I mean, it's very attractive and easy to read, but I also really like the photos, including of the infrastructure, and so we can see what those filters look like and or the modules and that kind of thing. So I think that's really helpful. I had a question for Councillor Jurgensen. Could you read this in this PDF kind of format?
I could.
You could.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Rex.
And thanks also for staff support on the accessibility planning, by the way. Thank you. And but I know it takes work to put these reports together, and it takes time, but I think this will help everybody in the community learn more about what goes into the municipality and what's happening now. So I think it has a news component to it too. So thank you.
I would absolutely agree with what's been expressed. I know from sitting in positions of management and at the board area level and having to pull together stuff as staff on this, it can feel, I don't know, what am I trying to say? I don't imagine anybody was sitting at their desk being like, I love writing a report for council and pulling it together and giving updates. Nice to see some smiles in the back of the room, so I'm sure that might be accurate, but as a mayor and from council, being able to see this laid out like this in a radar ping that gives us highlights from every single department makes the job that I have to communicate to our residents and what we're doing way easier. Like I can't tell you the number of times I've been so grateful and thankful for the reports that we do get. Now that we're seeing some of the pictures and media of it, that it's like, it gives me the ability to speak from the hip and nip buds of misinformation that might be coming up, or be able to speak to facts and figures, be able to speak to what's happening in our community. It's so incredibly helpful. So just to piggyback on what the CAO said, what Councillor Fast said, this is, for me at least, incredibly useful reporting and an incredibly useful document. And the way that it's presented in a visual way is just chef's kiss. So thank you for your work on this to staff. Sir Jurgensen?
Hey, hard to follow up such great praise from our staff, but I just want to throw my hat in the ring and also say thank you so much for this report. It's excellent, and looking forward to them as they come in.
Right on. We do have one page here from the library. Does anybody speak to the library or they just sort of? We do have a library board member.
Sure, just the last page is as a few highlights. The new staff person through this one-time grant funding. So part-time Children's and Youth Services Coordinator lives on Boa in the Lenora Loop, another one of your neighbors, Judy. And different kinds of products now, movies, talking books, and the career advisors. And I was really interested in the Service Canada people came. So these are different government departments that can help people sort out how to do things for the Canadian government and for BC careers and community integration and Canada Revenue Agency, they all come. So this is another role of the expanding way that libraries serve their communities. It's sort of a broader democratic education kind of role. And languages. So anyway, some of the news there. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Councilor Fast. Not seeing any other questions or comments. We will, by unanimous consent, receive the presentation, or receive the quarterly reports. So that is considered received. We have 3.2, the CAO update. Is there any, felt like an exhaustive update? Is there anything else that?
Yeah, I don't have anything formally prepared for this one. I hope to have a brief report in future ones. I think the date crept on me. I think I was gonna do one more comprehensive next quarter, but I figured let's just start it off. Let's start the year off on the right foot and have both coincide together. So I'm gonna give you a brief overview. I figured today we'll just go through what as future CEO updates are gonna cover, and then I'll try and give as much information as I can. So we do have a terms of reference for this. So what I'll be doing at CEO updates will be talking a little bit about engagement, any meetings I've had with external stakeholders, and the relationships I've been trying to foster. So one example of that happened last quarter was I met in January with the CEO of Squamish Nation to talk about how we can better coordinate and how we can perhaps create opportunities for us to have better engagement. And during that meeting, one of the things that was mentioned was in terms of the community center opening, having Squamish Nation involvement and maybe considering some art down the road that could be included in this building. And then the other thing I would be talking about in future updates would be some initiatives I've been working on, just trying to advance outside of what we normally do. So one of the things I have been doing during the last quarter is on the ferry traffic and signage issue, coordinating with ICBC to see if they will fund a study for wayfinding, pavement marking and signage plan, like a formally engineered one. So if you look at Google Street View photos between 2009 and now, there's quite a difference in the way things are marked. And then like some of the signs that were actually written on the pavement that say ferry, I thought they didn't do them anymore, or they were not part of the pavement marking schedule. But if you look closely, they're there. They're just really faded and you can't hardly see them anymore. And I want to do this because if we're going to something like thermoplastic pavement markings, they're quite permanent, or they'll stick around for 5 or 10 years. If you want to change them, you have to paint over them in black paint and redo them. It's an expensive process. So if we were going to do this, we should do it right. And so I got 3 proposals from various engineering companies to do an actual formal review, and ICBC has the terms of reference for what that review looks like, and they are willing to provide funding up to 50%. So I think we had 3 very close priced proposals, and all with the same technical merit, and I think the low bidder was around 35,000. So they would give us 17,500 if they're good with what we'll come up with. And trying to get BC Ferries to give us the other half, but 17,500 doesn't seem like much, but so as per the last meeting with our MLA, decision making seems to be very centralized. BC Ferries and people we deal with often don't seem empowered to make even the most trivial of dollar amount decisions, like what is 17,500 in the grand scheme of things. So we're looking at options. I'll just explore that with their CFO on how we can fund the other half if we're going to go ahead. I mean, we do get this NRN funding. That might be applicable, might not be. So there might be some tools, but I think that's important to have that because then we'll actually get drawings of how paper markings are supposed to be so we can duplicate them and refresh them more frequently. And so that's just one example of one of the initiatives. There's a bunch of others and in future reports I'll detail them. The other, so there's going to be six items that I'll discuss. The next one is staff development. So it's type of training, corporate training that we're doing. So just developing staff and talking about what we've been doing. So it wasn't necessarily in the last quarter because I heard it happened in the previous year, but we did the Indigenous corporate training. So that's one example of kind of a organization-wide staff development initiative. Our HR advisor will speak about the senior management retreat, which I thought was a really good opportunity for us to know each other and get to know each other. We talked about a mission statement for the senior management team, what the workplace norms are, what the culture is here. I think all things that are important to fostering a really cohesive senior management team. And then the next item is, and this one's easier for me because thankfully Christina's put together a good list, but I wanted to highlight our new staff hires, just so that you as council know the new faces or people that are joining us. So in the last quarter in bylaw services, we hired Wendy Hackney. Met her, but she's been working out of the bylaw area where there's 3 bylaw officers along with Doug Woods as our main bylaw services manager. And also Jesse Perry was hired as well. Our HR advisor, if you want to jump in on any of these and provide more context, you'd be more than welcome to get the assist. But when Jesse's also a volunteer firefighter, so very committed to the community and involved. In terms of custodians, we've been hiring a lot of these folks, and they're not all full-time. Like we're trying to fill out the shifts with we'll need to hire a bunch of people to do a bunch of shifts, and I think there's still some vacant shifts that haven't been filled, so we're working on that. But Chris Crowley, Morris Stewart, Barry Merton, who's also a volunteer firefighter, and David Collins. So a lot of people, and as Christina mentioned earlier, a lot of interest in being custodians.
But we actually have 2 really good applicants this last week for those last little shifts, so we're gonna have auxiliary willing to fill it.
And finally, last but not least, we replaced Sophia Redder, who had left us in planning, with Xerxes AU or Ow. Okay, and I was hoping he was going to be here today, so and all these folks would be here so I can acknowledge them in person. But he sat through the last regular council meeting as an observer. So if you recall, an attentive young man who was standing in the crowd observing politely, that was Xerxes. So we hope to see him come up to council and present a report of his own in the future. So I always like to acknowledge people who decided to choose Bowen Island Municipality as their employer. So
And Xerxes is also applying to be a volunteer firefighter here. And he's recently moving to Bowen, and he's expressed a lot of interest in the Bowen community, so I think hopefully he doesn't get poached from us too soon.
It's easier when they live on both.
Yeah.
And then the last two items, which I'll be reporting on more is just any local government trends and issues I'm seeing out there right now. There is one example is there's some talk at the Metro and side of seeing how at the CEO team was how can the smaller municipalities be supported by some common services. We haven't had those discussions yet. That's just one example of one of the things that's happening out there. And then also just we'll go through a table at the next quarter about just progress on strategic council initiatives and resolutions. This actually, we had 39 questions last planning update. And I believe, if memory serves correctly, we probably crossed off 5 of those or 6 of those already. So we're making progress on the strategic plan and all the items that council identified for staff.
Right on. So I'm hearing we'll complete our strategic plan by the end of Q2.
Maybe not Q2.
I didn't mean to give you any heart attack. Okay.
But were there any questions for this quick verbal CEO update?
That's great.
So will your report come out concurrent with this or be part of this report?
That's the intention, yes.
Okay, and one other question, I think at the beginning of the term, we received an org chart with all the staff and departments and names.
Hmm.
Do you regularly produce one of those?
I updated anyway, so we can provide this in the report.
If we could do it as part of the CEO update and just provide it for, I mean, it's only if there's nothing changed in the last quarter, then.
Yeah.
Produce another one, but in this case, yes, it's changed, so. Certainly. Next quarter, we're expecting hopefully a manager of infrastructure. So that would be represent a change for that group, folks.
That is great, and I think it covers off the other half of the piece that's really useful for council is giving, tightening that, formalizing that connection between sort of the CAO and council and that reporting from everything in terms of the intergovernmental meetings to the types of staff development that are taken on, and just like that organizational health and operations perspective, I think it's going to be really helpful. Taking the lead on it, and here's the documents, we've had some back and forth on it, but I just really appreciate the work on this. Mostly because I'm starting to feel more connected to what's happening at the staff level than I have throughout most of this term. And again, it just makes it easier for the ability of the mayor to be able to be out in the community and speak to this stuff. And I think highlighting it in a regularly quarterly cadence helps council as well in having digestible pieces of information that we can then go out in the community and really represent the strong work that's being done from a municipal standpoint. And that also informs our decision. So thank you for that. Not seeing any further questions, and Councillor Fast packing up and then ready to go. I'll look to a motion to adjourn. By Councillor Getty, second by Councillor Jurgensen. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.